The Evolution of Computers by John Viti. Topics we're going to cover: the roots of computing, early computational devices, early computers, computer generations, society before and the future of tech, and the future, a quantum leap. The roots of computing. From dictionary.com, to compute is to make a calculation, especially using a computer. But how did the earliest human civilizations make calculations prior to the help of modern-day computers? Our best guess indicates that humans were counting roughly 20,000 years ago. Markings were found on the feature of a bone named the Ishanga bone. The Ishanga bone was found in the area known today as the Democratic Republic of Congo. The markings on the bone, upon further study, seem to indicate some sort of numbering system. Studies show that primitive cultures, or those without written languages, would count with their fingers, point to different parts of their body, use sticks, pebbles, and other similar means to represent numbers. In fact, a tribe in New Guinea could count to 22 by using various motor skills alone. And this isn't too far-fetched. Think back to your earliest memories of counting. I'm willing to bet you were using your fingers to get the job done. It's a very intuitive skill that we develop early on. So why did ancient humans find a need to perform more advanced calculations? As those humans started developing surpluses of goods, such as food from agriculture, they needed better ways to trade these goods, and to ensure that they were getting a fair value. That brings us to the first known device used to help with more advanced calculations: early computational devices. Humans wouldn't have gotten very far if they relied on their fingers and elbows to perform their calculations. The first known example of a computational device was the Sumerian abacus, which relied on a base 60 number system. The abacus we know and think of today, however, was developed in China around 1100 BC. How did the abacus operate? The beads represent digits, and they were moved as calculations were performed. The vertical column on the lower right represents the ones place. The column immediate to the left is the 10. The third represents the hundreds, and so on. The upper right column represents 5 and 10 respectively. You move the lower beads up and the upper beads down to represent a number. If you move 5 beads on the lower right column up, you would slide an upper bead down to represent those 5, and then slide the lower right ones back down again. If you had 4 beads on the lower right column moved up and 1 bead moved down on the upper right, you'd be representing the number 9. This process would be repeated as you moved up in the base value. Sounds complicated, right? Just think, humans were using this thousands of years ago, and they weren't just used for counting. The abacus is still used today in some parts of Eastern Asia and can perform addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, as well as calculate cubic roots. Now that we know the first mechanical calculating device was the abacus, the first fully functional mechanical calculator invented was the Pascaline. The Pascaline was invented by a French mathematician, Blaise Pascal, in 1642 at 18 years old. Blaise Pascal invented the device for his father, who was a tax collector, and created over 50 of them over the next 10 years. The Pascaline was truly innovative because its unique design of the carry mechanism. His innovation resulted in every digit being independent from the state of others, which has allowed for multiple carries to move from one digit to the next. Early computers. Fast forward nearly 200 years to the mid-1830s, and a man known as the father of computers, Charles Babbage, laid out the plans for the first automatic digital computer known as the analytical engine. Although it was never finished, the analytical engine would have been the basics of elements of today's computers. Why did Charles Babbage feel the need to innovate and develop such a device? His ultimate goal was to eliminate human error. After Charles Babbage effectively got the world thinking about the possibilities of computers, there began a series of innovations. In 1853, a Swedish innovator, Per Georg Schütz, and his son Edvard developed the world's first printing calculator. In 1890, Herman Hollerith designed a punch card system to assist with the U.S. Census calculations, which ultimately saved the U.S. taxpayer approximately $5 million. In 1931, Vannevar Bush created the differential analyzer, which was the first automatic general-purpose analog computer. In 1936, a man by the name of Alan Turing shocked the world when he presented the principle of a universal machine, a device later known as the Turing machine. This machine was technically capable of computing anything that is computable. Today's modern computers are based on his ideas. As the listener might be well aware of, Turing was involved in producing the Turing-Welshman bomb, which was a device that was used to crack Enigma, a Nazi code system during World War II. The task was nearly impossible to complete without the help of a computing system. When Allen's team broke Enigma, the Allied powers were able to decipher Morse-coded radio signals transmissions from the Axis powers, which saved many lives. Computer generations. Listing all of the innovations computers have experienced since Alan Turing's creation would be a daunting task, so I'll sum up the next 88 years into 5 computer generations. The first generation was from 1940 to 1955. Machine languages were developed, vacuum tubes were used for circuitry, and magnetic drums were used for their memory. These machines were very complex, large, and expensive. For input and output devices, they used magnetic film and paper tape. The second generation was from 1957 to 1963. The upgrade from the vacuum tube to the transistor brought about a second generation of computers. Assembly and programming languages such as COBOL or Fortran were implemented, and binary was no longer the norm. The trend of smaller, faster, much more energy-efficient computers had begun. The third generation was from 1964 to 1971. Here we saw the implementation of the integrated circuit made up by many transistors. Computers saw a drastic increase in power, while prices began to fall, making computers more accessible to businesses. High-level programming languages were also implemented, such as Fortran 2.4 and Pascal. The fourth generation was from 1971 to 1980. The invention of the microprocessor was the highlight of the fourth generation. This allowed for more sophisticated algorithms, along with the reduced design complexity. The trend continued with higher processing speeds, smaller sizes, and lower power consumption. Programming languages such as C and C++ and Java were implemented, and newer versions are still in use today. The fifth generation was from 1980 to today. We are living in the fifth generation of computers. Today's computers use parallel processing and superconductors. Artificial intelligence is being developed and used with today's computers, and they are a household item in developed countries. An interesting phenomenon known as Moore's Law should also be mentioned here. Essentially, it states that the number of transistors on microchips have been doubling and continue to double approximately every 2 years. Today's transistors are 7 to 5 nanometers in size for commercial chips, and IBM has recently developed the world's first 2 nanometer chip, where the transistors are smaller than a strand of human DNA. IBM's new chip technology can put 50 billion transistors, each about the size of 5 atoms, on a space no bigger than your fingernail. Experts suggest we are approaching a limit to the number of transistors we can fit on a silicon chip, and at some point, you just can't go any smaller. With computers being commonplace, it's hard to imagine what life was like before. Society accomplished many of the same tasks before computers, but things just happened more slowly. For example, if you wanted to write papers or letters, you had to use a typewriter or write them by hand. When people wanted to watch a movie, they couldn't stream them from their home, they had to go to movie theaters. If you wanted to read a book, you had to go to the public library and borrow one. If you wanted to listen to a song, you had to turn on the radio or listen to a vinyl record. There was no streaming. People couldn't shop online or have many items delivered to their home. They had to write a check or drive to a store. And to socialize, people had to meet in person. There weren't online video games, chat rooms, or social media. For those looking to make a career change, or others who are just starting out, a career in tech seems to be a safe bet. From Forbes, the industry of the future are powered by tech. Technology is the #1 industry, and tech companies own almost half of all venture capital dollars, where growth is forecasted at 135%. Industries such as cloud computing, AI, machine learning, and big data are areas that are expected to make the biggest impact. The future, a quantum leap. Companies are looking to the future, and a new emerging technology known as quantum computing, which utilizes quantum mechanics, offers to solve complex problems far beyond the reach of normal computers. Michio Kaku explains in his book, Quantum Supremacy, the technology will have profound societal implications. While transistors have 2 states they operate in, on and off, Quantum computers use quantum bits, or qubits. These bits are capable of being in more than one state at a time. Quantum computers can complete tasks exponentially faster than normal computers. A quantum computer with only 100 qubits is more powerful than all computer systems on our planet. Much like the transistor thrusted us into the digital era, reshaping our society and creating new technological leaps forward, quantum computers promise to do the same. The societal implications. Cybersecurity companies such as Palo Alto are very concerned with the potential threats quantum computers impose. Quantum computers reduce the time required to process data, including algorithms targeted at decrypting security. A test that would take a normal computer hundreds of years to theoretically complete would only take quantum computers microseconds. Pharmaceutical research. Quantum computers would better model how physical atoms interact with each other, providing a clear understanding of how drugs would develop over time. Imagine drugs being developed with the side effects already known, or better yet, eliminated. Manufacturing. Quantum computers can offer better accuracy when it comes to prototype testing, effectively reducing manufacturing costs and improving designs. And AI. According to the SAS Institute, the goal of AI is to reason on input and explain on output. Today, AI is getting much better, faster, and offers creative solutions to many problems. What happens when this technology merges with quantum computers? The future of computing still has a long way to go. Sources. Thank you.